Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Guile here, and welcome back to the Forged Alliance Forever promotional series. And if you listen very carefully, you might just be able to hear the sound of no children running around. That's right, term time has resumed. The summer holidays are over, and we can get back to the nitty-gritty of casting on some sort of regular basis. Lots happened while I've been away, guys. We've had patches released, and Blackheart is running for the New Balance Counselor position or something like that. I'm not going to go into all of that because I haven't had a chance to actually read up on it all myself, and I'll only end up having to, correct myself in a future cast. So I'm going to go away, do my homework for a future one, and bring the news to you on a later date. But what I do want to do is I do want to say a huge thank you to all the people who have made some very generous donations over the last few weeks. I've had some coming via PayPal, some coming via Patreon, and it means the world to me. Obviously, casting Sopcom is its own reward, but the donations enable me to justify, as a guy with a young family, to justify spending the time on putting the content together. And it's not actually the casting that takes the time. The casting is, it doesn't take that long to do, but it's the endless trawling through replays trying to find something that's of interest, or something that I think will be of interest. People don't always agree, of course, but something that is actually worthy of casting, because so much of it isn't. No offense to people who send in replays that don't get casted. I don't want you to stop at all, but suffice to say, it takes an awfully long time, and your donations make it all possible, essentially. So thank you so much. And I hope you're getting thank you letters sent out via Patreon. I try and send out a little email to people who send in donations direct through PayPal, but if you're not, take this as your official thank you. Anyway, let's get on with today's game. It's going to be a pro-level custom 1v1 on Certis Major EP. I'm ready, you guys are ready, and the players are ready, and the Omnis are built. So let's go on over to the game zone and see how these guys are going to get on. Certis Major, we know what we're doing with here. We'll take a look at their starts in a second. First of all, let's introduce the players. Over here on the far left, we have none other than the quintessential Zock. He is going Aeon in Halib Orange. Orange doesn't like the fact that his opponent has got no mic. Obviously, they're chatting away, or want to be chatting away on Mumble or whatever the other server is, something really with D that I don't use. And his opponent over here, Nexus of Realities, going Fim in Ferrari Red. So it's an Aeon versus Fim matchup. Plenty of floaty, naughty on a map where it will make absolutely no difference whatsoever. But what is nice is to see the worshippers of the way in full flow, and not just another Cybrin mirror matchup, because quite frankly they leave a very poor smell in the mouth, if you know what I'm saying. Anyway, opening both first land. First of all, one initial NG out for both of these guys. Second air for Zock. He's going to throw that down next to the Hydro, which he's already started. And looks like Zock has a much more efficient start. Nexus Reality perhaps was getting something else going at the beginning of this one. Maybe a little distracted, but it would seem as if Zock has a significantly better start. Nexus Reality has gone for lots of extra mass extractors right off the bat. So 4 mass extractors. Zock still waiting to get his other 2 core mechs online, but he's got a very narrow power balance going on. I'm guessing Zock is probably going to be a little bit more efficient. Already has the Hydro. Just finished the Hydro now is Nexus, but Zock nearly complete on the Air Factory as well, and then queuing up an endless row of T1 P-Gens after that. So I've got to say, looking at it initially, it would seem that Zock has the more efficient opening. Taking a look at Nexus of Reality, so he's bottlenecked pretty badly there on power. Zock, how's your power eco balance? Well, just about. Look at that, skimming the baseline on mass. I mean, it's almost, you'd think he'd done this 100,000 times, but it's probably because he has. He is Zock after all. And there you go, mass bar starting to increase. That is a thing of beauty right there. Of course, lots of nasty neutral stuff to be wary of in the center. We've got the Eruptors sitting inside that long wall section, and then inside that T1 and T2 anti-air shield domes, the works. Plenty of mass, of course, to reclaim if you can incapacitate that at the start. A couple more neutral buildings on the central plateaus either side as well. T1 bomber out for Zock early on. Scout plane leading the way. It's going to fly over the top of a Selene, so if Nexus of Reality is paying attention, he will see the threat incoming. Doesn't look like we've got any static anti-air online in the base, so we have an opportunity there to at least grab one or two engineers. Quick bomb away, but already on the move is Nexus. Saw that coming, keeps the engineer alive. Surely we're going to have an interceptor in the air soon. There it is, and he will pick up some kills at the very least. Cancels the construction of whatever was building in the air factory. Kills 3 engineers, and then on the evac run kills another 3 as well. Zock proving why he is arguably the finest player on FAF to date. So efficient with everything he does, making each pass count there. 9 kills for that T1 bomber, and he's still going. Picks off another engineer coming off that land factory there up on the ridge. Transport is completed for Nexus. Looks like he's going to try and pick up some build capacity, but this could be costly if he can get the bomb away. Doesn't manage it. Very lucky there that Zock didn't manage to get that final bomb off. That could have been absolutely cataclysmic for Nexus, but still lovely work there by Zock. And of course, sometimes when you see a lot of intensive micro early on by the harasser, they start to fall off on eco because they're so busy using up all their APM to attack. Well, that's not the case here. 29 to 21 at current reading. Zock making that early pressure count. Where are we up to over here? Well, still producing T1 inties. Not seeing any tech as yet. Well, yes, we are now. That latest land factory complete for Zock. Immediately starts work on the T2 upgrade. Meanwhile, up over here on Nexus's side of the park, Transport gets shot down by a couple of Zock's interceptors, but he does manage to get the vast majority, at least, of his engineers to safety. One of them a little bit worse for wear, down to about 25 hit points there. But the important thing is the majority of the build capacity in position to keep expanding. Nexus of Reality now seemingly overtaking Zock for the time being on mass production, albeit by just a couple of mass points there. But are we seeing any upgrades in tech? Yes, we are. So a land factory for Nexus, 70% complete there on the upgrade. Zock, by contrast, just at 60%. So Zock perhaps falling behind slightly on the tech side of things, and Nexus of Reality in the lead on eco. So maybe Zock just taking his eye off the ball a little bit while concentrating on harassment. It just shows you how early harassment doesn't always have to be everything. Of course, if I was sitting in Nexus of Reality, I would have been saying GG about 3 minutes ago. But that is why these guys are at the top of their game. Just as proficient at recovery as they are at attack. So going to work, expanding, getting hydrocarbons online at the other starting locations on a map, which of course is built, the Certus EP, as I believe it's a 4v4. What have we got? Core mass, and another set there, and another set there. It does look like it's the 4v4 version. It is incredibly difficult. Of course, so many different versions of every conceivable map now, with different numbers of players. Meanwhile, Aurora's coming through the southern pass now from Zock, picking off a couple of mexes and an engineer. Well, one of the mexes might survive on 160 hit points as some THAMs show up, but Zock is quick to react, keeping the Auroras at their max range and getting every possible racial benefit out of those tanks, and thus can take out that middle mex and continue to pressure the final one. More THAMs coming in though from Nexus. There goes the lead Tham. Will he pick off this final mechs? Yes, he will. Engineers roll in and start work on a Tech 1 PD, trying to stall the progress of this push. One engineer down. It's going to be very close indeed. Nice deny there from Zock. T1 point defense will not go online, and yet more reinforcements rolling in. It's just almost annoying to watch. You just said you think everything that you can do to halt Zock, he always seems to be one step ahead. Just about sends enough units in to get the job done and no more. Now they're able to continue their march forward. I don't think he's going to be able to do much to this forward base. We now have point defense online, quite a lot of land factories as well, so Zock will shortly be pulling back, I should think, but not before he's inflicted the maximum amount of damage he can on troops which are rolling in currently in single file. Meanwhile, at the top of the map, similar situation in the northern pass as well. Zock solidified the pass with a T1 PD, another one on the way as well, and troops forward of that position as well. However, they are bearing down on the causeway up here, or the mountain pass, I should say, next to Reality, sitting there with his ACU getting a T1 PD online. Back to the southern position down here. Might even pick up one of the land factories here. There it goes. But next to Reality, transitioning to T2 Air, will roll in with a couple of Vulthus T2 gunships protected by a fighter screen, and that will be the end of that little attack. Might want to think about sending those gunships north to push Zock back up here as well. No T1 artillery in the mix, so I suppose we are relatively safe up here for Nexus. Again, the range on the Auroras does give you a little bit more flexibility, sitting at max range, tinkering away, popping the odd unit that comes off the conveyor belt there and just harassing that land factory. But rather than send the gunships north, he has of course got the ACU up there that could tidy that up nice and quickly with a little commitment. Instead, he's going to keep the gunships down here and go to work on Zock. Try and claw back some of the progress he's lost. 144 to 114 now. Current reading in favor of Zock. Incidentally, not 100% sure we are flat out cutting out the use of the Supreme scoreboard. Had a bit of a comment section conversation with Hazar, the producer, the other day. He's going to make some alterations and going to look into some things. It really does enhance the cast, so if I can figure out a way to make it work, still not 100% sure it's the only cause of the stutter issue. So watch this space on that front. Gunships inflict a little bit of damage. Out 3 or 4 mechs is destroyed in that push before they're seen off by some interceptors there from Zock. Meanwhile up here, Zock's lost that forward vanguard of Auroras there, just one remaining. A few rogue engineers rolling in to their deaths. Very low IQ, of course, Aeon engineers. Now we're seeing some Ilshivers on the field for Nexus of Reality, moving in, picking up some engineers on the way, and a vulnerable T1 anti-air going to go in a similar direction as well. Some good damage being inflicted by Nexus. Zock with a very exposed southern flank. And that's why he hasn't bothered spending much time on Tech 2. He's gone straight for Tech 3. Harbinger's now pumping out as we speak, and the T2 land factories generally are being upgraded straight to T3. One or two still sitting there at T2 but not currently producing Tech 2 units. Zock going straight for that Tech 3 land push instead of graduating his army. We also have Tech 3 online for Nexus, starting to produce Othams. I think that will be the first one on the field there. The second one rolling off as we speak. Little middle central firebase being erected there under shield coverage in the center for Zock. Largely static game now as we approach quarter of an hour into this one. A couple of Harbingers pursuing these Ilshivas in the center. And Nexus of Reality is going to drop back and consolidate his forces a little bit. It's got a lot of engineers over here. They might want to think about moving back. Can Zock see them on intel? Yes, he has good intel coverage of, well, it looks like pretty much the whole map at this point. Nexus is going to want to scoop as much mass as possible. Be hoping he gets that big block. The shields have been depleted as these two Harbingers roll into T1 PD range, and a new set of Ilshivas ramble in. And Zock's attention obviously elsewhere. No micro deployed on that. Meanwhile, the Harbingers at the top under a renewed pull-through threat. Looks like he could be about to lose both of those as well. Starting to see some swift winds emerge there from Zock, who's now at Tech 2 Air, and a couple of T2 air transports as well, the Alumnas. Could Zock be thinking about a couple of potential drops on the way? And I did suspect we were going that way, so this little fire base here setting up for a TAC missile battery. Four of the launchers are queued up, and that's complete. We'll take a look at the range. Actually, can you see the range before it's complete? No, you can't. Just think that's never occurred to me in the past to actually check that. Some more Harbingers heading over to the southern pass, counter another Ilshiva threat that's rolling in, although we do have 3 T1 PDs which will catch these Tech 2 units in a crossfire. With the Harbinger's arrival, that will be more than enough to fend this attack off. No ground gains there by Nexus. Lots of Otham stacking in the main base for Nexus of Reality, who's doing a pretty good job in eco, surpassing Zock by about 40 or so mass at current reading, fluctuating of course, but it's a nice and unexpected advantage to have. Once again, Vulthu's catching a few Harbingers out. Zock not yet with any flak in the area, any mobile flak to help defend these Harbingers from gunship attack. However, we do have flak with another northern bunch of Harbingers. Zock having some power problems there. As you can see, the Harbs' shield blinking on and off. we got on the ground to fend this off? Well, we've got some Othams back here. We have Nexus's ACU and a few Tech 2 PDs that are very hastily constructed, and that should be enough to prevent Zock from getting any real penetration here. Zock doing a bit of a Zulu assessment here, testing the strength of his opponent's defenses with the lives of his warriors. In come the gunships, and he's like, yeah, that's enough of that. Not getting anywhere with that little push. One rogue harbinger up top, just picking off mexes and grabbing engineer kills as and when he can. ASF's on the field to protect the gunships now for Nexus, who looks like he's in pretty solid shape in the air game. Zock at 53% on the upgrade on his air factory to Tech 3. Completes his ARAS there, does Zock, but still leaves him about 18 mass behind his opponent. And now we've got some TAC missile batteries online. We can take a look at what they can reach, and it's basically everything, pretty much everything of note. You can catch 2 of the T2 P-gens in there if he goes for the power grid, but of course all the mass pretty much is vulnerable. I'm not seeing any TAC missile defense as yet, so there'll be a small window potentially where Zock can inflict some pretty heavy damage, as long as Nexus doesn't get wise to his plan with a sneaky spy plane flyby. There was one spy plane back here, so I don't know if you've seen it. We do have some TAC missile defense dotted around the center, but it looks like the pass into the main base might be open. Strap bomber harassing the harbingers from Nexus, who's looking very strong in the air now indeed. Little pile of swift winds for Zock, just trying to keep those strats in check in case they come anywhere near the main base. But if a conflict does arise, those swift winds will be made short work of by the ASFs. Lots of spy planes out for Nexus, passing over the middle. He will now see the TAC missile threat. Will that provoke a launch from Zock? This latest TAC missile battery still yet to acquire a missile in it. So it might provoke Zock into firing a little bit earlier than he wanted to. I'm not sure how much recon Zock has done recently. I have been taking a look at that. Well, he seems to have had pretty up-to-date reconnaissance on the area. It comes down to how much attention Nexus is paying, or whether he's just looking at mobile units. He might just see a cluster of structures there and not be paying attention to it. But good work up on the pile of harbingers up top. However, the strats run straight into the swift winds. The interceptors on the other side, and Nexus is going to lose both of them. There was an opportunity there to wipe out Nexus's air units, and the next set of strats would have done very well indeed. But here come the TAC missiles in the first volley. What are they going after? It looks like they're going straight after the Tech 3 factory up on the ridge there. Interestingly, not going immediately after the resourcing option, but the next one looks like it might. Oh, but awkward placement there means that only one missile will connect. It takes 2, of course, to kill off a Tech 3 mass extractor. Oh, and again, the next mass extractor is saved by the cliff edge. Takes some damage. Most of the mass storage is destroyed, of course. Another TAC missile rolling in. I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing TMD springing up all over the place. We do have one over here now. Is this one going to hit the cliff? That makes it through, but gets shot down just in time. That was very close indeed. Meanwhile, Zock testing the boundaries up top once again. Nexus landing his planes in a very ill-advised position indeed. Lots of ASFs now vulnerable and on the ground. I don't know what Nexus is looking at, but it's not the northern approaches. Another push down on the bottom by Zock as well. And now the TAC missiles turn their attention to the masses, or the mass extractors in the center, and he's going to grab 2 of the T2s. Will he make it a third? TMD doing good work, but it won't save the back mass point. And still the TAC missiles are inbound, but still it makes no real difference to the mass picture. Nexus still way out in front, and he started work on an Ethota. Do we have any experimentals for Zock? Yes, we do. GC already inbound. So suddenly we reach the experimental phase of the game, 22 minutes in, and the two will potentially meet each other, I think, on Nexus's side of the map. Meanwhile, the southern approach conflict still rages. Zock dishing out plenty of damage, but he's not going to get out with those Harbingers. Vulthu's in full attack mode, potentially meaning that that mass field will be yielded to Nexus, although in comes a small band of ASFs which kill off the Vulthus. Nexus way out of position with his main air units. They're now coming down from the north, trying to steer well clear of this pack of units on the ground, which now has Redeemers in there. Lots of mobile T3 anti-air, doesn't want to tangle with those at all. But the GC now strolling in ahead of a large group of Harbingers. He's also got a lot of Asylums there as well. Zock needs to move those up to take the brunt of the energy weapons coming off the Ethota, which is sitting just the other side of that little mountain pass there. In come the Asylums. Is the profile too high from the Ethota? I don't think so. It's blocking some of the incoming fire, but the GC has taken a battering down to 5,000 hit points already, and the two experimentals die pretty much exactly the same time. I'm surprised if we don't have another one on the way. Well, if we do, it's not being constructed in the same place there for Nexus. In comes the Strap Bombers to unleash a little bit of extra damage. Ion Storm for the Ethota, causing problems inside Nexus's base. Air units tangle with one another in a very messy engagement indeed, over the top of these Redeemers, of course, which will be causing all kinds of extra problems. The large body of T1 interceptors for Nexus are completely out of fuel, so they're more or less useless. They're getting cut to ribbons here, and Zock pulls off a very strong win in the air, and suddenly Nexus's major advantage is gone. What are these strats doing here? Well, nothing, because they're not strats at all. Zock very handily has built a few Tech 3 torpedo bombers there. They're sitting on the ridge just watching the fight. It's sort of what Aeons do for romance, rather than parking at the top of the hill in an old Chevy. You get a torpedo bomber and watch a fight from the ridge. Zock, not ashamed at all, announcing it to his opponent that he's built 7 T3 torpedo bombers, no doubt withdrawing those to base to reclaim. That's a lot of mass. I have to have a quick look at how much they actually cost. Resources are a little bit rusty there, so 1,650 mass a piece. That is a lot of extra mass there. Well over 10,000 mass wasted. So you'll have to hoover that back up and make the best of that. But another GC rolling in now. Do we have another Ethota complete? Well, it's not complete. And Nexus resting on his laurels a little bit. He's going to need that to defend. Only 7,000 to 8,000 hit points complete of that 67,000 hit point bot. The GC already rolling in. Engineers moving in to hoover up the mass from that last fight for Nexus. Nexus down to a slightly more modest advantage. Is that bottlenecking on power for Zock? No, it's not at all. So actually, he's got 100 mass advantage on Zock right now. That surely isn't sustainable. That, of course, augmented by the massive amount of mass that's being hoovered up currently from the Ithota wreck. 135 mass advantage while that is running. But the GC rolls in, and Nexus of Reality has his ACU in very close proximity to this incursion. Needs to get a move on and get that out of dodge. He has got some T2 PDs online still over here. It looks like about 3 or so. He queued up about 5 or 6 more there, but he's not going to get those online as the Colossus crosses the threshold and marches straight in to the base, tanking a lot of the Tech 2 PD fire. Where is that next Ithota? Well, he's done well on construction. He's got 60,000 hit points complete and climbing, but Nexus is getting chased down here. He unleashes a wave of strap bombers. Zock counters by getting his ASFs in the mix. Those ASFs are going to tangle with Nexus's newly constructed. He's very quick to get new ASFs on the board, but he should have been more concerned about protecting the ground game, because any minute now that Colossus is going to be in range. The Ithota turns up in the nick of time, but will it be enough time? He has to stop, of course, to prioritize the comm, but the comm might drift out of range. It's going to be close, but no! Zock picks off the kill. Nexus is unhappy, and of course I think anyone would be at that. Very fine margins indeed. Just didn't expect that second Colossus, and if that wasn't bad enough, there was a third one rolling up the middle as well from Zock. Neither player, interestingly enough, conquering that middle section and making use of all of that mass. There are, of course, 4 mass points in the middle, neutral T2 ones that can be scooped. But very entertaining game. Quite a short one, but one to get us going for the new season here at Guilecast. Very exciting stuff. I hope you enjoyed it. There's always more to come from me in the future, guys. And of course, as we mentioned at the beginning of the cast, if you feel so inclined, you can support me on Patreon or via direct PayPal donation. More to come from me in the future, of course. But until then, stay well and stay safe. This is Guile, signing out.